All right, well, welcome everyone for coming to this month's Zoom. And I'm going to do my absolute best to make this subject understandable. I even had a hard time with this myself when I first kind of got started in it and realizing what this was all about. So I had to do a little bit of study. And what I think is interesting with quantum techniques, a lot of times people call us with all different kinds of symptoms that they have. And so we jump right in and find out, what's impacting them, what are the most stressed organ glands and tissues, and finding out what's bothering them. Is it viruses, bacteria? Is it toxins? And then once we reconnect the body, we feel what the body can see, it can heal. And so sometimes we don't need a name on it because that's not necessarily what brings the healing. What brings the healing is reconnecting the body and letting the body be able to do what it needs to do and clear what's blocking it. So that being said, let's jump in. So I'm Jody Colegrove, and I am a quantum technique practitioner, and I've been doing that for 16 years now. And the whole purpose is just to bring healing to chaos. Sometimes we have things in our life and we're like, what in the world is bugging me? I mean, even today, I got a headache. And I was like, okay, I thought I had tested everything I was going to eat this morning, but I definitely had a headache. Where is it coming from? So then I tested all my foods to find out what it was. And sure enough, I had some bad blueberries, and the blueberries were making me have a headache. And so that's an example of finding out, okay, what's the symptom? What's the toxin? And getting the body to recognize it and letting it go. So thank you, Kristen, for joining us. We're just kind of getting started. So all right. So I was just saying that I'm a quantum techniques practitioner. I do energy medicine, which is, and I do that through muscle testing to find out what organs are involved, what toxins are involved, and then reconnecting the body so it knows how to take care of it. And our goal is to bring healing to chaos. So today I want to talk about, what happens when our bodies seem to go rogue and that we have these symptoms and we're like, where in the world is this coming from? What's going on? So one of the things that we have studied and looking at is something called Mast Cell Activation Syndrome, MCAS. Now, I hate acronyms, so I never use that, but I like the actual name. And so it's mast cell activation, and that is just a really big word for histamine, okay, our histamine response. So, why do we have these mystery symptoms that no one seems to figure out? Okay. And the whole health community has really been working at trying to find out, what is going on with all these different symptoms, because they can manifest themselves differently in different people's bodies. And it's almost like someone called it a shapeshifter, and I thought that was a good way to explain it. So it makes people become extremely sensitive to maybe foods, medications, and supplements. You can suffer from gut issues, sleep problems, brain fog, heart palpitations, constant exhaustion. You may be feeling like you're battling kind of like fibromyalgia-like pain, rashes, hives, itching, shingles, headaches, swelling. So all of those are histamine responses that the body is having for a specific reason. And so the intent is to find out, well, what is causing that reason? And so that's why as it manifests itself, a lot of times looking from the outside, it looks like a shapeshifter. And we're trying to figure out, okay, what is it that's going on? Well, mast cell activation occurs when mast cells, in other words, AKA, the front line is sensing and defending cells of your immune system become overly sensitive or overly responsive. And they flood the body with inflammatory mediators like histamine that can cause widespread symptoms in the body. The histamine intolerance is a related condition to the mast cell activation in your body, because your body can't handle the amount of histamine that's just dumped into your system. And so it's trying to figure out where to put it, what to do with it. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. The good news is that you can recover from mast cell activation and this histamine intolerance. You just need to identify the cause of the mast cell overstimulation. and remove the offending triggers so you can stabilize the system and reclaim your life without, did I read that wrong? Sorry. And remove the offending triggers and stabilize the system so you can get back into a healing state. And we need to reset your immune system so it's in a healing state and reclaim your life without that sensitivity and without the autoimmunity. So one of the examples that I kind of like often use is when people have had a issue, and it can be multiple things. So it could be you've had an injury, you've had a surgery, you've had a dental procedure, you've had a fall, you've had a car accident, you've had an emotional stimulus, something, highly stressful in your life is going on. So any of those are like a lightning strike, okay? So you're going along, minding your business, and you have this issue that happens, okay? It could be physical or non-physical. Well, just like our bodies, when that lightning strike happens, it's almost like when you have a house. And in your house, you have an electrical panel in your house that has all these breakers in it. And each breaker goes to a section of the house. It could be the kitchen, the bathroom, the bedroom. And so when lightning strikes a house, sometimes it will knock off that breaker. And so nothing in electrical in the house works. So you go to the garage and you open up the electrical breaker and you start checking if all those breakers are online or off. And a lot of times they are on, maybe just the main breaker has been, switched. And so you have to put it back online. So you go back in the house and you say, okay, yeah, everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and start cooking dinner. And then lo and behold, you get ready to cook dinner. You're like, wait, the stove actually is not turning on. So you go back to the breaker box and you go, oh, that particular breaker was still tripped. And what happens is that whatever lightning hit, it struck that particular breaker and it actually fried it. And so you actually have to get a new breaker, or you have to switch it manually, or you have to do something different than just the main overall breaker. Well, that's what kind of happens in our bodies, is that when we encounter that kind of an emotional or non-physical issue, it blows our breaker. It disconnects things. And so when we're doing energy medicine, we're going in and saying, okay, what organs are involved? And we reconnect it with its own self so that it's recommunicating with all the brain engines, all the cortical contacts, all the organs, all the spine, the teeth, everything. And so maybe the teeth aren't involved in the specific issue, but if you had a dental procedure, then maybe we need to put the teeth on. If you were in a car accident, then we need to do the spine. And obviously the spine represents all the organs in the body. So sometimes if you have a problem with stomach, you'll feel it in your spine because they radiate with each other, they communicate with each other. All right, so we're finding out and reconnecting to the body what has happened. And that works pretty good. But sometimes we even have to go even deeper and say, okay, there's a specific issue that is causing an issue, or we might have some more information. As the body heals in layers, we got that first layer taken care of, but then we have another layer that's come up. And so, so just an example, a family member of mine has had surgery. And so we got everything back online, cleared the anesthesia so that the cognitive issues are coming back. But then we have to take care of, we have to take care of the pooping mechanism is not working correctly, and a whole elimination. So we have to put that online. And then we just discovered today, her blood sugar levels are kind of high. Okay, so we have to put back on the blood sugar system because it's too high. So sometimes those individual breakers, we have to go and check because we're noticing symptoms are showing up in those specific areas. So I hope that's a good illustration to kind of help you explain what's going on. So going back to the mast cell activation, that is like what's happened to the body, and it's knocked off those specific organs. And so we're trying to find out why they're overreacting and then trying to get the body to put them back online. And that's where this lovely word that we're all learning is called autophagy. And it's actually been in our awareness for a while. And we're realizing that that's kind of a key component to helping with this histamine response. All right, so now I got into my explanation. Let's let me go back to kind of my outline here and make sure I'm covering everything. So as you can see, it's really important that you reconnect the body. And so, you know, I've talked about with my talks before is that it's a good idea to find out if this is kind of an issue that you're having. And so that's why I would like to set up a 15-minute tea with you so that we can kind of get to know you. I can find out whether, you know, this modality would be helpful for you and the situations you're dealing with and the symptoms, and kind of explain a little bit more about what we do. So I'm letting people know that if you sign up by the end of the call for a 15-minute tea, that's just a free time that we can kind of get to know each other and find out if this modality be helpful, maybe answer some questions, because I think it's really important that you know what's going on and what direction to go. And that's why a lot of times I'm always telling people, you know, it's time to get clarity, have energy, and live in peace, knowing that, you know what, just the next step to take so you can start getting your health back. All right, so jumping into a little bit more explanation. The SARS-CoV-2 virus crosses the blood-brain barrier and it attacks the brain. It also crosses the gut-blood barrier. So that's why you'll get some issues with the digestion. So when this happens, you have inflammation and you also have autoimmunity, which kicks in, and it creates, you have a real problem on your hand. And autoimmunity is where if you have an insult to your body and it goes into the tissue, sometimes the body can't recognize between the insult and the tissue. And so it doesn't know what to fight. So it just decides, okay, I'm going to fight it all. And that's where autoimmunity is. Your immune system is fighting itself because it can't see the difference between the problem and your tissue. So how do we start reversing the process? And that's through autophagy. So autophagy is the body's way of cleaning out damaged cells. So they're actually eating themselves. They're actually getting rid of the stuff that it doesn't need anymore. It's a way of self-preservation mechanism through which the body removes dysfunctional cells and it recycles parts of them towards cellular repair and cleans out and removes the debris. So it kind of helps decide which it needs to do. When cells are stressed, autophagy is increased in order to protect us from which enhances our lifespan. So in times of starvation, autophagy keeps the body going by breaking down cellular material and reusing it if a necessary process. That is why you'll hear a lot of people saying that fasting is good, but it's always good to check. You know, so if you have low blood sugar issues and things like that, you may want to do intermittent fasting. I've heard a couple things lately where fasting may not be good for certain people. So that's why it's so important to muscle test and find out whether that's actually something that would be helpful for you. Sometimes it's also helpful to be in a ketosis diet. And that way it helps with certain diseases so that it doesn't have any negative things like carbohydrates that are kind of like not allowing it to really focus on what to take care of. It's just dealing with the proteins and using that in order to help the body. So in certain diseases, it's helpful. And it's also helpful kind of for a period of time as the body's trying to repair. So autophagy removes these toxic proteins from the cells. And these proteins that sometimes are there can contribute to Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So autophagy also prompts the regeneration and creates healthy cells. Autophagy plays a role in preventing and treating cancer. And autophagy declines over age. And so the older we get, the more our body has a hard time of taking out the trash and getting rid of that cellular debris. And so it starts building up. And so I've found that in doing autophagy scans on people, that the younger you are, the quicker you can get rid of it doesn't mean that you won't have a lot of things blocking autophagy, but you can get rid of them quicker. All right. I was kind of laughing because I'm like, well, my dog's 7, but she has a lot of autophagy and it's taking her a while. Well, in dog years, she's older. So she actually is older and having an issue taking care of them. So, and I think it also depends on the assault that it is. I've had 5 major mold exposures in my life, and my body's taking a while to get rid of them. So I started on the 1st of November and I've only taken out 3 of 5. So I'm going kind of slow. You know, my son, which is 16, I think he had 38 autophagies that were blocking his digestive system, and he cleared them last week. You know, so within like 2 weeks. So, we try to go slow enough that we don't overwhelm the body with detox. And that's, I think, the hard part for me, because I would like to jump in, get it taken care of so you can go on with your life. And you really have to go ask or do what the body's wanting us to do. And so we go, like, in other words, if we test, okay, there's 5 things blocking autophagy, and then we test, okay, the body can do 1, then we actually do half of that. So we only do half of 1. And then as we see how the body responds, and sometimes we can go a little bit quicker. But a lot of times at each one of those layers, we're taking out sludge and trash that is accumulated. If that makes sense. All right. So again, I would love to talk to you more about whether this autophagy scan and whether doing any of this histamine reaction is something that your body's dealing with. And so having that 15-minute free tea where we can kind of talk and see what your issue is really helps you understand what I do and with energy medicine and muscle testing and the modality, and then helps me know how I can help you. Maybe gives you some answers too. I think that's, you know, really helpful. And so if you set that up by the end of the call today, you just email me at jody@quantumtechniques.com, and I can put that in the chat so you can see that. So it's an easy website. Sometimes me, I'm not the speller. Quantum Techniques can be hard to spell. All right, so I just didn't put it in the chat there. Okay. So when I'm out, so that's just a 15-minute tea to kind of get to know what this modality is about: energy medicine, muscle testing, autophagy, you know, and kind of gets an idea of what that is. But a quantum technique session, which is the modality that I do, is a larger session. And so what we do is a 7-step process that takes about 60 minutes. And what we're doing is we're reconnecting the body, we're putting the body back in balance, we're finding out what organs are involved, what toxins are bothering it, what pathogens are bothering it, and then reconnecting the body so it can get back in balance, and then giving you an acupressure code at the end that helps you put all that back in balance, and what the body can see, it can heal. And so that 7-step process for the first time clients usually takes about 60 minutes. So we kind of get a really good baseline of where you're at and what your body's dealing with, and then give you some answers and give you a couple things of what to start working on. So you can see that that's a more comprehensive test, because we're really finding out what's going on. And so if you sign up for a quantum technique session by Sunday at 5, then you will get $100 discount on that first session. So it'd be $300 for that session instead of the typical 4. And when you sign up, there's 2 forms that you need to fill out. And one is a session request, and the other one is your client history, because I need to know kind of what you've been going through and what you eat and what you put on your body, and all that's really important. And so, so if you sign up by Friday, sorry, I keep saying Friday, by Sunday at 5, I can give you that $100 discount. So it's $300. And to fill out the forms, it takes about 20 minutes, because I want you to kind of list the things that you eat and things like that. And it really is helpful. So I'm going to put the link for that to sign up for a session request in the chat. So you'll have that too. I think I was supposed to have this loaded up so I could just cut and paste, but I didn't do that. So I'll just do that now. And hopefully I will spell it all correctly. Okay. Yep, okay, so there's that other link for that. All right. So one of the things that I have tried to help people, I said, okay, if you weren't going to do, a bigger session, what is it that I can do to help you at least kind of get back on track? And that's where reconnecting the body came from. And we've been kind of telling our clients to do that for years, but we're kind of finding how important that is. So you think about what your issue is. Is it your lungs? Is it your liver? Is it high blood sugar? And so whatever those organs are that you can say, hey, this is kind of where I'm feeling this inflammation in my body or this histamine reaction. You take those, you think about what those organs are, and you reconnect it with the cortical contacts. Okay, and so you have limbic, frontal, motor, premotor, sensory, association, cerebellum, visual memory, primary vision, visual, auditory, cell memory. There's 2 more. So they're right in here. Okay, so you reconnect it, and then you also have some brain engines, which is MOG, cell memory, amygdala, hippocampus, motor, pons, cerebellum, heart. Can't remember the other one. I think it's neurological, limbic, throat, heart. The belly button is kind of your microbiome. And then you have the tailbone, and then we have another point, which is kind of softening. In other words, reconnecting everything and making it all just kind of function. And so those are the different points. And so I have a couple charts that I can send you that show the brain engines, the cortical contacts, and those organs, and then you can reconnect that. And I have a video I can send you that kind of shows you how to do that. I ran through it a little quick here. But that's something I want to gift you with. And so if that's something that you would like, just email me at thejody@quantumtechniques.com, and I can send you the video and those charts. And that way it's a good way to reconnect your body. And I know a lot of people that do that every day. When I had a dental issue I was working with, every day I would take that tooth and I would think about reconnecting it with the whole body so that it would stay online. It knew how to reconnect with the body. It would not cause issues. And it was pretty profound to be able to do that and not have issues later. So that's why I wanted to gift that to you. And that really is something that can help. So like I mentioned, QT doing a full treatment, you can see it's a much more in-depth, but reconnecting the body, that does do something that does help the body want to be in a healthy state. So I do think that that's helpful. So again, you can sign up for the full 60-minute session by Sunday at 5 and get the $100 discount. And it's just really important because I want you to get your health and happiness back so you have the health that you want. So I wanted to answer, open it up for questions and see if you had any questions about this mast cell activation. Anything to deal with autophagy, if you've heard of that before, the histamine response you may be having. So just love to open it up for questions. So feel free to unmute you and we can go from there.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Well, I'm My son has some severe reactions to cheese. He has the MTHFR, one of the mutations. I can't remember which one it is. He can't eat gluten. You know, he's got that gut brain. When he was very young, he had dizziness and a lot of brain stuff. So I know there's the blood-brain barrier. He's in college now. He's had this for a long, long time, but the cheese kind of happened in middle school, and now he's 20. So, you know, just a week ago, he had some cheese and had to take 3 Benadryl. And I don't have control over his diet or his life.
Right, yes.
And, so I don't really know what to do for him. Like if there are anything I can supplement or recommend to him. And then the other thing is I too have had some nerve stuff in my head, and I know it's all vagus nerve stuff, and everything you described just hit all those vagus nerve points. I get constriction in my abdomen and my heart area, and I get, you know, in the temples and the eye, especially my left eye. And mine has more to do with more of a mental health issue. It's stress, extreme amounts of stress. It's like I get you mentioned lightning bolts. I get these little lightning bolts in my head, and I can't seem to stop them. And I've tried doing the intermittent fasting, and it makes it worse. It's like it causes so much stress in my body that I end up going crazy. So I don't think that's an option either.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just looking for ways to, you know, I have this kind of gut feeling that if I eat a ton of greens and maybe juice and, you know, just try to rebuild some of that up there. I have good digestion. I eat a lot of salads, and, you know, I eat a whole foods diet, but I guess I'm just looking for any kind of new science on the matter.
Yeah. So kind of back up with the, you know, the teenager or 20-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, my son is 16, and he has been gluten and dairy, you know, intolerant. You know, when we first, you know, I don't know, it was like when 6 months we start, you know, feeding kids stuff, and I fed him Cheerios and he would roll around the floor in pain. I'm like, that's not what the commercials show.
Yeah, that's how my son was. I used to have to sometimes, if he got gluten, he had canker sores, and he has weird, like, I don't know what it's called, but where you have the skin where it starts to fade, you know, the vitiligo, I don't know what it is, but he had all these symptoms, and he had it pretty bad. And then the dairy came later, you know, and he's really good. He stays away from that most of the time, but he's been to the hospital 3 times for anaphylaxis.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty serious for him.
Yeah. So, you know, we tried to, you know, or we did keep our son off of wheat and dairy as much as we can, you know, but it's hard when you love ice cream and you want to have fun with kids and take them places. And so, you know, it was a balance, but we had a lot of discussion about it. But I knew that there was a point where he was going to have to take the reins and not just me, you know, controlling it kind of thing. And so I've always in my life looked for, okay, how can we heal this, you know, and it originally came because I didn't do enough research when I was a mom. And so one of my, you know, biggest regrets is that I allowed a jab in him as my son. And I'll never do that again, you know, and so I learned pretty quick to not continue. So that was the start of it. And so we've been continuing to clear him of that. And I've done a lot. In other words, clearing him out of any digestive issues and things like that. And what I found is the digestion was bothered by the wheat, but the dairy actually made his immune system go down. And so, you know, he would take dairy and he'd be okay, but then like a day he'd kind of be a bear because he'd gotten immune system went down and he had a virus and bacteria that impacted him. So everybody's body's different. And so you're just finding the pattern with muscle testing and what's going on. But we kept that off of him for a while, but I was always clearing and testing what I found and clearing that blood-brain barrier that got impacted when he was little. This autophagy is part of that. And so that's what I was clearing on him, was that digestion field. Now, he does have a lot of, let's say, I don't want to say age spots, but, just like when you have, lots of moles, and they're not really moles, but they're just, bumps on, on their.
Right. My son does too. He's got bumps all over his skin, like chicken skin almost. It's like, yeah.
So, so that's how it was manifesting. So when I did this autophagy for him, the two organs that were the most involved was his digestion and his skin. Right. And so that's what I found, is he had 34, 36 frequencies that had bothered this field, and we got it to clear within a couple of days. And he's coming for Thanksgiving, obviously, and so I'm going to find out, because he's in a boarding school, and so I'm going to find out. And so obviously I'm not in control of what he eats, because I was in control of what he eats all the way up through last year. And so when he comes home, I can see, okay, how is his body faring? But I have to admit that him being on his own and doing that, he is, I'm not getting as many dings on the foods and stuff like that. And of course, I have to laugh, because I said, well, so what do you like best in the cafeteria? He says, well, their rolls are really good. I'm just like,
oh yeah.
And then he told me the other day, he's like, he said, I'm going to go out for the president of the cheese club. I'm like, you don't even eat cheese.
Almost like he's just going against everything you've taught him. That is how they are. It's frustrating.
Yeah. So obviously there is a lot of, I have to let him experience what he has to go through. In other words, we all have to get to a place where we go, when I eat that donut, I don't really feel good. So I don't want it anymore. And so there is a sense of, you have to let them reap what they sow. And so, maybe after a while he'll kind of say, I don't want to be in the hospital and have to take a Benadryl. And it's like, and so they realize the cause and effect. But what we try to do is come behind and try to support clearing that, so it's not as bad of a reaction and things like that. So it's really just clearing the assaults that happen on the body, that are not allowing it to like reconnect. And like I said, the autophagy is kind of like another step on top of that, is really clearing those deeper insults that happen, that cross the blood-brain barrier, and being able to clear that,
Right. So my question is, you talk about the autophagy, and if you don't do intermittent fasting, you're talking about two things: muscle testing and clearing things. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not located anywhere where I live.
I do it all over the phone. I work with people all over the world.
Okay, so you can muscle test without actually. Okay, that makes sense.
And I test a lot of teenagers through parents. So
but you'd have to be in contact with him.
Not necessarily. All I need is permission. So in other words, I like to say, for example, I work with people that are in comas, and so I'm just asking that person, their energy. Do I have permission to work with you? Now, I still have to get, your permission, obviously, to work with them and their client history and stuff like that. Right. But typically I find that, teenagers don't mind being worked on as long as they're open to the modality and stuff like that. Right.
And it's kind of interesting because he was always very open. In fact, he even took a Reiki class, but he doesn't do that anymore. I had kind of a mental breakdown 4 years ago, and it kind of threw him off. And it was all sort of related to all of this. And I'm still struggling. So for him, he's kind of soured on it. So I'll have to talk to him. But do you also, so you're a quantum techniques practitioner or professional, or however you want to say this. Mm-hmm. Do you focus mostly on this mast cell syndrome? Or
not necessarily. What I try to do first is saying, okay, what organs, glands, and tissues are not working, and reconnect those. Then I find, okay, what's the toxins that you need to get out of your life right now? It's not allowing it to heal, because we all heal in layers of an onion. So that autophagy is almost like the core is what we're finding.
Right.
So the outside is usually foods, deodorant, lotions, mosquito bites, spider bites. It could be, injectants. It can be inhalants, like Windex, molds in your environment. It could be viruses, bacteria, fungal in your environment. And so laundry detergent. So that's like the outside layer of like, okay, to clean up your environment so that we can get in a healing state, we start there. Okay. Then your body may detox from that. And so we clear that detox. Then the body goes, oh, okay. And let's say that it was having headaches because of all that. So that may heal because of what we just did. And so it's like a related field, and we weren't even looking at that. But then sometimes after that, your body goes, oh yeah, I was having this digestion issue that I didn't really notice because everything else was so,
Right.
And so then we dial on like, oh, okay, well, yeah, your digestive mucosal lining is not functioning well. So then we say, okay, what things are gonna, maybe remedies, what things do you not eat that is going to impact that? So we start supporting that. And then that may have some sludge die off. So we're slowly kind of getting the body to go back to this natural state or the balance that it needs to be in. And we kind of work in that way.
Okay. That sounds like that works. Yeah. Okay. Well, that answers some questions. And so I guess you would consult, like, as the layers unpeeled, you might have suggestions about physical things you can do at home and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And certain supplements that I find that really help take care of stuff quicker. Because, especially with fungal and stuff like that, sometimes, people say, oh yeah, I've been on a fungal diet for, 1 or 2 years. You don't need to be, you should be able to, get, as long as it's not in your environment, get rid of it within 2 or 4 months. I mean, you just want to really get after it.
Right. I just recently, so I found out I have a mold in one of those, a bad toxin that can lead to Alzheimer's and that kind of thing. And it's pretty bad. And I just went on a very extensive mold detox. It was very expensive as well. And retested and it hadn't budged. So I was pretty frustrated by that.
Okay. Yeah, there's a certain supplement that I usually recommend that helps with virus, bacteria, mold, parasites, heavy metals, and so it's one of those things that kind of is an overall, but what it does is it helps keep the good flora there. And so you think about a stream and how the middle of a stream, when it's flowing well, everything is clear because it's moving, but it's the subsidiaries that are kind of like stuck and mucky and stuff like that. So it's a supplement that helps really start getting your whole digestive system back in that natural flow. And it's been very helpful. I give it to my son when he was 18 months and his health turned around on a dime. And I've loved it ever since. So yeah.
Good. All right. Can't think of anything else. And I don't know. I'm still struggling, but I don't have food allergies so much. I don't eat gluten because I was very sensitive to gluten. And actually I've kind of gone into a whole foods plant-based diet. So I don't even eat cheese and milk and that kind of thing. I do eat fat. I eat nuts and seeds and,
That's really important for the brain. If you have any issues with Alzheimer's, is to make sure you have enough fat in your diet. And people don't realize that the omega-3, they may take like omega-3 supplement or maybe eat fish and things like that, but you need to have a lot more than you think you need to have. So typical omega-3 supplements, you'd have to take 3 a day to get the allowed amount that you want. But we can test that and see if the one you're taking is good. And,
okay. All right. Yeah, I don't even take one. I mean, I was on so many supplements for a while. I just at one point just got so frustrated I tossed them all out.
I've been there.
It was just like this whole counterful, and it took up my morning, and it was just like, this is not living anymore. I can't live like this. So I've streamlined and just kind of said, I got to let some of this go. I don't want to get crazy here.
Yeah. And that's kind of how we don't want you to be on tons. I mean, because sometimes they are counterproductive. So we're always like saying, okay, what's the best for you? And obviously you get from different sources, ones that may be better, but then we test to say, okay, what about this combination? Is the combination good? Or maybe this one is overreacting to that one. And maybe this one is the same as this one. And so you don't need as much. And so, so we're always kind of looking at that.
Okay, well, thank you. And I'll open the floor to other people. Unless you have more to say, but I don't want to, dominate.
I thought it was interesting how you talked about the cranial nerves. And that's something I've really worked on, just because I have issues with cranial nerves, and they are starting to be a key thing that COVID has activated on most people. And
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And everybody, like my dad, it's his heart. For other people, it's the lungs. For certain,
yes, it's all attached to that vagus nerve. Because I've discovered the same thing just by researching, just kind of seeing the patterns.
Yeah.
And it's like I knew immediately, like within several months of all these different symptoms, I'm like, that sounds like nerves. And I tell people, if you've got nerve issues, and I do have, I believe in energy medicine, and so yeah, I mean, there's a way to clear this, but it's going to take a lot. And my youngest son, took one vaccine because his grandmother wouldn't see him unless he was vaccinated. He didn't want to take it because I said, no way are we taking that? And he said, well, I want to see grandma. So he did it, which was, super sweet and super sad. But he seems to be okay. And my other son's like a world traveler, and he did 3 shots because he wanted to travel, and he couldn't get out and move around. And the other thing I've noticed that helps people with vaccines and COVID, because we've all had COVID, and I've had it twice, is movement. I've noticed my older son worked all this out. He's like a roofer, and he's a hiker, and he's a backpacker, and he's moving. And I really want to tell people that if you want to recover, you've got to get lymph going. You've got to, everything has to flow. Like you said, when you said the river, it's like, you've got to get everything flowing. You've got to get your energy, your fluids, you've got to drink, you got to walk, you've got to even run, even rebounding would probably help, or anything that's kind of bouncy and causing some movement.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm seeing as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's kind of like when the whole thing started, it's like, okay, well, great, here's an opportunity to be as healthy as we can. I never thought about going to the store and getting more chips. I just, just
Right.
where my brain was. So I learned how to be a runner, and I had never liked running before. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a runner now, and so.
Yeah, exactly. I've been doing that too. That's funny. Okay, well, I don't want to, like I said, if anybody else wants to talk, I'll be quiet.
Well, thanks for your input. Yeah, you asked some really good questions, and really kind of helped explain a little bit about what I do. So yeah, I'd love to talk with you more about what I do and kind of explain it. So yeah.
Okay, and so what I would, just before I leave, I have a meeting to go to. So would I contact you and have a session then, or talking? I mean, how?
So you could do 2 things. One is you could sign up for just send me an email, jodyquanttechniques.com, and want to do a 15-minute call. If you feel like you kind of understand what I do and how I can help, you can sign up for a session request, and that's by on Sunday. And like I said, it takes about 20 minutes to just fill out the forms, and the link is there in chat. So you just, sign up.
Okay, and just sign up on Sunday then.
Or between now and Sunday, so you've got some time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the 15-minute call would be
anytime. Just send me an email. We'll try to schedule that. So
okay.
It doesn't have to be, in other words, I'm busy today, I'm busy tomorrow, and I don't work on Saturdays. I do have a little time on Sunday, and then next week is Thanksgiving. So it doesn't have to be soon. I just, want to, if you have interest, I want to kind of put that in the, schedule somewhere.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for your questions.
Okay, I'm going to head out. So goodbye.
All right. All right. Let's see if someone else has some questions here. All right, you can just unmute you. Okay, Jody, you got some questions? So let's see, go ahead. Yep, there we go. See, I think that will unmute you. Wants to unmute. Okay, there. Now I can hear you. Go ahead.
I've seen so much about COVID and hair loss, and
Yes.
it seems like since COVID, all of a sudden I've been shedding way more than I should be. And I just curious if you've had many clients that have had that problem too, or
I have.
I've seen it on the internet. It's been widespread for lot of people. So
Yeah, and I've had 2 clients that have hair loss, along with, not being able to taste and things like that. And I do think that autophagy is a part of that. Now, have I been able to test both clients to get them back? I haven't been able to concentrate on that particular thing because we've been addressing things that were much bigger. But I do think that if you looked at the autophagy, that would be part of it. And I do have one, she's not a client of mine, but she's a good friend of mine, and she does a whole bunch of alternative stuff. And so, so she says said my hair is starting to grow back. So it's like she got like a little crown that's kind of like about this short. so I know it's possible to grow it back. I don't know how fast, but it's just a matter of finding out, what's going on. Now, I do have a lot of, don't laugh, I have a lot of practice on my dog because we live in an area where there's a lot of mosquito bites, and that dog gets bit. If she gets bit or has a mold, on the skin, she will start losing hair everywhere. And so we kind of laugh because when we're able to pull in and not have her go outside so much, then I don't have to, swift the house as much. So there is definitely a correlation with what the toxin is that she's bidding compared to what's happening. So it's just a matter of, knowing how to dialogue with the body, with the hair follicle, the hair, anti-hair falling out factor. So I know a lot of those different phrases to try to get the body to start growing it back. But
okay.
Families love to teach us how to do this stuff. I'll tell you that. Yeah. It's great to have you on the call.
Thank you. Wyatt would be happy because he's sick of unplugging the drain.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, very true. All right. Well, Sharon, I didn't know, I think that's how you say it, Sharon. I didn't know if you had any questions before we got done today.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, I'm listening and commiserating. Yeah, especially hearing about your kiddos and their troubles. And we have an adopted son who had problems right off the bat. And I swore when he was 5 years old and he had his last jab before school that he would never have another one in his life because I finally caught on.
Yeah.
And to this day, he's 45 and he still has histamine every day of his life nearly. But I can't tell him anything. So so he has to live with that, I guess. And talking about hair loss, I've had COVID probably 3 to 4 times, I'm not sure. But it takes about 2 to 3 months and then my hair starts falling out like crazy. And if I muscle test, I know it's from that. And if you have any, thing else to know how to stop it in its tracks, I don't know, or if it's just, it's coming out because there's nothing more you can do. Because I've been doing quantum techniques almost as long as you have, I think. And it's like, it doesn't seem like I can stop it from falling out, even though I know what I know. So.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, if I just say, okay, thinking about the hair follicles and like doing the reconnects with that, is that helpful? I get a no. That's how I muscle test. Okay. So I like to always say, okay, so what is the key organ, gland, and tissue? Okay. So that's where I like to start. So let me pull my list up here. Of course, my phone doesn't want to behave.
Fortunately, my hair has been quite thick and it grows a lot. So it hasn't been, unnerving or whatever, but it does bug you that you have to clean your brush out 3 times a week instead of once a week.
Interesting. I get it's a cranial nerve. Okay. Issue. Okay. So let's find out. Is it the lungs part, liver, stomach, colon? It's kidneys. Now I wouldn't have thought of that, but okay. So is there another key organ, gland, and tissue involved? Yes. Okay, the microbiome. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And cell memory. So those are your main areas to look at. Okay. And if Jody, if I were to say, are these the same one for you? I get a yes. Okay. So that would be ones to look at. Okay. So,
But it quits on its own. That's what I mean, eventually you've lost whatever is programmed to be lost, and then you're back to the normal brush loss. I mean, what you're used to seeing in your hairbrush.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, it's happened enough times now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I know this won't last forever.
Yeah. What's interesting, you'd think, okay, wouldn't this would be a hormonal issue? Would this be a, endocrine system issue? And I get a no. Interesting. All right. So with that involved, it is a mast cell activation issue.
Yeah. I invented mast cell, by the way.
You did, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. So if you know QT, then I would do kind of a cell surface receptor. So you're clearing that for those organs, and then see what toxins and pathogens come up.
Okay. Like a sludge field, you're thinking?
No. So in other words, we see functional anti-hair falling out factors, functional anti-hair loss, functional healthy hair growth, because you do the opposite.
Okay.
And then all those organs, glands, and tissues, how many things are getting away? There's one thing, and it's COVID. So it's the virus. Now, virus of COVID, how many? We have one virus, but how many bacteria? There's 4 bacteria with it. So that indicates that it's Omicron 4 or 5 that had the 4 bacteria with it. Okay. Then I like to say, is there something else that's a combination field there? And I think that's just one of the things I've learned to test, is that sometimes it's a combination, so the body doesn't recognize if it's just one or the other. So if we clear that off of that field, then we reconnect on our spokes. Then you have the detox, which is the kidneys. Okay. All 21 charts, something else is not connected. So now you've reconnected the kidneys to that field. And then you would do the detox if there is any. But yeah, so it was really the combination field that wasn't allowing the body to clear it. So it was only like clearing half of what the problem was.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. That's where it gets kind of in the woods, but that's the fun part for me.
So what's interesting is before COVID ever started, I had problems with zits on my head and tried multiple things, worked with other QT people. And I've had it over 2 years on my zits on my head. Isn't that weird? And then the hair loss never was an issue until COVID happened.
Got it.
So you're opening my windows a little more here.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, and I think everything is always meant to teach us something, and so you can look at anything and say, okay, what can I learn from this, and so it's, to me, that's always the fascinating part.
Also, my husband is wondering if COVID has anything to do with, how men get a belly, a fat belly, hormonal thing a lot of times. Is COVID involved with that you know of?
That was, I wouldn't say my symptom, but gaining weight was my histamine response.
Oh, mine was losing. I'm skinny as a rail. I'm skinny as a rail. Send me something, girl.
My husband has he's been really working really hard with getting, his weight where he liked it, really working out and stuff like that. And now he's starting to get a belly back again. And it is a histamine response. So that's why I'm doing the autophagy on him for that. And autophagy on me, excuse me. I did it for the weight, and that solved pretty quickly. But then there was another field underneath that, which is these 5 mold exposures that were, I don't know if they're against the digestive field, but that's part of kind of the weight too. So yes, to answer your question, that is a response to it. And like I said, everybody's body's different. And so you think back of what your past symptoms have been, or your problem areas, and that's going to be accentuated.
Yeah.
Mine was mold, and then his was
Okay.
actually his kidneys. But the weight is kind of a part of the kidney detox too.
I can identify with the mold extremely, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We've had so much mold in our history, and me as a child, even having mold, that now I have to breathe oxygen when I have mold exposure. That's no one can even tell it's there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absurdity.
Well, and I think this is what I'm hoping, you know, because like I said, I'm in the middle of this, but my hope is that because I had these 5 mold exposures and I've gotten rid of 3 of them, that as I clear that out of the deep tissues of my body, not allowing autophagy to happen, that when those are gone, then I won't respond to mold as much in my external environment.
Yeah,
so it
amen.
won't impact me as much. So that's what the hope is, to get done with autophagy.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so you have some experience in mold.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm huge, but you know, it's just interesting if you think back of where your symptoms came from. And I went to a school, you know, for college. And so I was in a dorm that was built in the 1930s, 40s. So I had metal in the pipes, mold in the building. And then my dear parent, and this is my issue, so it's not my parents. My parents came for my birthday and they brought me a sheet cake. And we had a beautiful, you know, fun time with my friends and that kind of stuff. And so when they left me the sheet cake. And I went, great, I've got a sheet cake I can eat, you know, every so often. So I kept it in the bottom of my closet for a month and ate it.
Dum, dum, dum.
Yeah, I had no idea what mold was. And so that was my assault of when this happened. So I'm going all the way back to age 18 and clearing that mold exposure with along with the heavy metals like that caused that. So, you know, and the other stuff was more recent, you know, kind of thing. But yeah, so it's just interesting how our history impacts our health and knowing what that is, and so we can go back and take care of it.
Yeah, that's huge. And I can almost top that one, Jody, because you know what the barn board look is that's come on in the last few years? You know how cool that is? Well, in the 1970s, we got Uncle Harold's chicken coop that was just horrible, and they wanted it off of the farm. And we took it and we finished off a whole upstairs room with really cool barn boards. And then we wondered why, when our daughter was born, she couldn't breathe and she had to be held upright.
Wow.
And why I had sinus infections and lived on antibiotics and had sinus surgery and.
That is just so interesting, because I laugh even today, because I sat down at work and I go, my nose started, you know, blocking up, and I started getting a headache. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it dawned on me it's cold, and I brought in 4 plants from outside and had them sitting in my room. I'm like, oh, ding, ding, ding. And so I stuck them outside, turned on my ozone machine, and within 5 minutes I was fine. So, you know, you start getting what they call mold radar, you know, and
I can get a piece of mail out of the mailbox and my head swirls because it has mold on it. That's how I have limbic system impairment from it. So,
well, and to me, it's like, okay, so then what's the benefit of that? You know, you can really work on taking care of your health because you know what those toxins are. You're not hiding them, you know, and so you're aware of how clean your environment needs to be. So you're helping not only you, but the people in your environment to stay as healthy as they can. So, yeah.
Then the next thing that was a biggie was about 2 years ago, our backflow device on our irrigation water system for our backyard, it failed, which means the water came in backwards into our house that was full of mold and bacteria. And we were drinking it and washing our clothes in it and living in it.
Oh, yikes.
And I turned around in the kitchen one day and I saw the water coming out and I said, oh, there's mold in that water. And it's just plain old water coming out. And I intuitively knew, empathically knew, oh my gosh. And so I'm telling you, the fact after a whole bunch of like, what's going on here? You know, why did I have this reaction to seeing water coming out of my faucet? And we traced it clear back to what I just told you. We didn't start with that. We ended up with that's where the mold came from.
Wow.
So it was huge. So everything we own had to be treated, thrown away, replaced, whatever. Wow. So tell me about mold, girl.
Yep, it's there.
Okay. Anyway,
Oh,
well, this was helpful to hear more people.
Yeah.
And then the gal that got off of the call, if they have the MTHFR gene in their family, they need to be real cognizant of that turning on. It doesn't have to turn on, and they need to put it out there that it doesn't have to turn on just because of ABC happening.
yeah. And I've worked with some people on, making sure that with what I do, that is online. And I
Yes,
know
it
there's some supplements that people have that help, and it's just individual on whether they are helpful for it or not. For
you
me,
have
they're
to.
not helpful.
Yeah, you have to really be picky with supplements if you have MTHFR, especially if it's the double gene that you've got.
Got
I
it.
mean, there's just the double thing really, it just scraps most supplements. You can't hardly methylate them. So yeah, you have to be careful on that one.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
why I love
well,
the beauty of muscle testing, because you can find out. So
Right. Okay, well, that I won't keep talking.
it's great to have you contribute. So all right, well, great, thanks. It was good to share those stories, and you realize you're not the only one dealing with all this weird stuff. So I would love to continue to connect with you guys, so you're welcome to join my Facebook group, which is Health Puzzle Academy. I also have a YouTube channel, and that's Jody Colegrove at Quantum Techniques. And I share a lot of videos on there about what I do, different things. I mean, it could be as much as, how to get, stains out of your clothes and things like that. So from that to natural remedies and things like that. But I just really want you guys to discover that root cause of your health problems, so you can get back your clarity about what to do, get energy to do it, and so you can live in peace. So the best way that I know how you can do that is to sign up for a Quantum Technique session, which is 60 minutes with me. And if you sign up by Sunday at 5 Central Time, then you get a $100 discount. And so you have the link in the chat. And then if you want to talk more about the modality and what you can do, you can set up a virtual 15-minute tea with me. And that way I can get to know you, and you can get to know me and what I do. And so I just look forward to you joining us on next month's Zoom meeting. It will be a little earlier to try to, get through for Christmas and things like that. So look for the announcement on that. So I appreciate you attending today, and I just hope that you continue to have a blessed rest of the week and happy Thanksgiving. So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. All right. Bye.